Hello everyone, welcome to AITechFun.com. My name is Sumit and here I'm with my new video in Salesforce integration topic. And the topic for today's video is how do we configure name credentials in order to connect to Salesforce Org. So the idea behind here is that we would like to integrate two Salesforce Org and there would be one source org, and from the source org we will be going to make a REST request onto target org, and while making the request to the target org we will be using name credentials. So in order to explain this concept, let me show you one diagram, the architectural diagram. It will be like this, that we'll be having one source org. This will be my source org, and I got a target org. So in order to explain this better, I have created two Salesforce environment. One I will take it as a source, and the second one I will consider it as a target org. And from one source org, we'll be going to make HTTP request to the target one. Target org will validate that request, and whatever request is made by the HTTP request is made by the source, it will revert back with the HTTP response to the source one. So the source will make a request to target, and target will respond back to source. And in order to establish a communication between these two orgs, we require a few supporting files. So the first thing we'll do is in the target org, we have to create one connected app. And the connected app which we'll be going to create in a target org, we use the consumer secret and consumer details that we'll use in order to configure OAuth provider. So we'll understand like this, that first of all we start with a connected app in a target org. The details which we receive in, or which get generated in a connected app, those details will be used in OAuth provider. Then once we configure the OAuth provider, that functionality, that information will use in order to create the name credentials. Then we will be going to create the Apex REST class, and that Apex REST class will be invoked through HTTP callout class at the source. So these are the 5 things we need to create. And in order to demonstrate that, what I've done, like as I mentioned, that I have already created 2 Salesforce accounts. So I will be using, so these are my 2 Salesforce accounts. So one using this will be the credential, so that's the username, and the target org is this one. And let me show you in Salesforce also. So this is the Salesforce org for which I consider as a source. This will be my source. We'll map it with this will be my source. This one. This is my source, and here is my target org. Here is my target org. This is my target org. Now, as per this diagram, the first thing we have to do is, first of all, we need to create one connected app in our target org. So let's start with that. And in order to create a connected app, we'll switch to App Manager and make sure that you have the developer's permission. If not, then you won't be able to set up this functionality. And what I have done, I have already created one connected app named as this one, login from Salesforce. That's the connected app I have created. That's my connected app, login from Salesforce. And in this connected app, this is the connected, these are the informations I have entered. So you can see that's the connected app name, that's the API name, contact email, and here I just check enable OAuth setting. Initially, when you start, you because you are not sure about the callback URL, so what you have to do, you can leave this as a blank. So you can initially you can take it as https localhost.com. You can start with localhost.com at very initial level, and then we have to give permission. So what I've done, so from the available OAuth scope, I move all the services to the selected OAuth scope. So that's all we have to do here. And once you configure this setting, and if you want to know more about how do we create a connected app, I will drop a link in the description. You can use that link, which will explain you how do you create a connected app in Salesforce. And as you can see, so once we finalize the setting, we will get an option called manage consumer details. You'll get this option, manage consumer details. You need to click on manage consumer details in order to fetch, in order to get the consumer key and consumer ID and consumer secret. So it will ask for your verification code, and the verification code is 257091, and verify. And as you can see, this is my consumer key and consumer secret. Okay, so that's the consumer key and consumer secret which we receive from the connected app. So I'll just write connected app, and from here we get consumer key and consumer secret. So in this, so that's the consumer key and consumer secret. That's my consumer key, and that's my consumer secret. Now this consumer key and consumer secret I will be going to use in the OAuth provider in the source. That's the second step. So first we start with the connected app. Second, we have to configure a OAuth provider in the source org. So let's switch to source org, and here I'm going to set up a OAuth provider. And this OAuth provider you will find out under identity. So I click on OAuth provider, and here I have already created one OAuth provider. So let me show you this OAuth provider, what I have done. So I started with the OAuth provider name. First of all, okay, whenever you start with the OAuth provider, we have to select what type of OAuth provider. So I select Salesforce. See, we have various other OAuth providers, and I'm using Salesforce because I would like to establish a connectivity with Salesforce. Here we have to provide the name and the URL, and here we have to provide consumer key and consumer secret, and that's the consumer key and consumer secret which we received from the target org connected app. So that consumer key and consumer secret we have to provide here. You will find out few more other URLs, so you won't have to touch this URL. Leave them as it is. Don't make any changes into that. And yeah, so that's all we have to configure here: consumer key and consumer secret. And finally, click on save. And as soon as we click on save, as soon as we finalize this and click on save, our OAuth provider will be created. And within this OAuth provider, you will see there are few Salesforce configuration URL you will be getting. The test only initialization URL, fallback URL. You have to copy this fallback URL because this is the callback URL. So now whenever this OAuth provider make a request to the target org, to the connected app will verify the request, verify the author. I mean, it will authorize the request and revert back to this URL. Okay, it will revert back to this URL. So what you have to do, you have to copy this callback URL and paste it into connected app settings. So in connected app, as I've told you, that we have to customize the callback URL. So that callback URL you have to paste here. That's the way I get this callback URL. So this callback URL is from where? This callback URL is of the source org, because whenever the source org make a request to the target org for verification or for authorization, once the authorization is done, it will revert back to the source org. And how it is going? So how does the target will know where to revert? This callback URL will help out. That's why I use the same callback URL here. So that's the callback URL from our source org. So we have successfully configured OAuth provider, and now it's time to set up a named credential. First of all, what exactly named credential is? Basically, whenever we want to make the HTTP callout class, in HTTP callout classes, we'll be going to make HTTP request. And in order to make HTTP request, instead of using the complete domain name, we'll be going to use named credential. The purpose of using name credentials is that in future, if the domain name change, and if we have used the same domain name in multiple places, multiple requests. So let's suppose if you are not using name credentials and we will be directly using the target or domain name. And in that case, what happened, we always have to change everywhere. So whatever is the domain name of the target org, we have to change at multiple places. But if we use the named credential, it's like a public, you can say it's like a public variable. We declare at one place and we use it at multiple places, multiple it means you can say we'll use that in multiple places. And if we customize only, if we change only the name credentials, if we change the domain name only within the name credentials, it will automatically change in all the places within the source wherever we have used that name credential. So how do we create the name credentials? We have to create the name credential in source. So here I'm going to create a named credential. And in order to do that, let me show you how I have done that. So I just created a named credential here. And for named credential, see, creating a name credential is also simple. What I have done in name credential, first of all, you have to provide the label, name, and URL. So let's suppose I just write test name URL. Now this will be the target org domain name. So I'll switch to target org, and here I just find out the domain name, target org domain. So you just type in domain and it will take you to my domain. And in my domain, I'll just see the domain name. This is my domain. So I copy this domain and we have to paste this URL. Or in short, you can use this domain actually. This is the complete step. So I'll copy this domain. This is the domain and I paste that domain here. This is the URL we have to paste. Okay. Now, so be very careful with the URLs and the links. Okay? Then the identity type will be named principal and authorization protocol will be OAuth 2. Authorization protocol will be OAuth 2.0. And in OAuth 2.0, we have to select the authentication provider, the OAuth provider which we have declared in the previous step. So this OAuth provider which we have declared Salesforce Org, that we have to select. See, we have other identity types also. We can use password authentication where we have to provide the password, and we have JWTs, AWS signature version, and no authentication means no authorization required. But I will be using OAuth 2.0 and we specify the OAuth provider which we declared in the previous step. And that's all we have to do here. So I have already configured one named credential. This is my named credential. Let me show you the properties. As you can see, that's the name of my named credential. That's the API name, and this is the target or domain URL, name principal, OAuth 2.0, Salesforce Org. This is the OAuth provider, and the scope will be refresh token full. If you don't write refresh token full, then every time you try to connect, every time you have to verify the request, and we don't want to verify every time. So therefore, I just say refresh token full. It will automatically refresh. We do not want to refresh the token. We don't want to provide the token every time. So we want it to automatically refresh. And as soon as you save this, as soon as you configure this and save this, it will automatically go for the authorization. And once we select the authorization, once we authorize this, it will automatically display authenticated as this one. Let me show you how I have done that. So for example, I just click on name credential and let me create a test name credential. I just write test name credential, and before URL, I'll just go over name principal, OAuth 2.0, scope is this, OAuth provider. The OAuth provider, this is the OAuth provider, and here we have to pass the domain name. So this is the URL, and I paste that URL here. And as soon as we click on save, what happened? It will redirect for verification. And here we have to provide the target org credentials for verification. Okay, because we will be connecting to target org. we will be connecting to target org. So we have to provide here target org credentials. And once it is done, it will simply display a message, authorization successful. See this. See, authenticated as, so authentication is successful. So that's all we have to do in the name credentials. And now this name credential, I will be going to delete this because I'm not going to use this name credential. So the name credentials which I created earlier, now this name credential we will be going to use in the HTTP callout class. Now before we create HTTP callout class, let's see how do we create the Apex REST class in the target org. So now let me switch to the target org, and here I'm going to create the Apex class. So I'll just create Apex class. And how do we create the Apex class? How do we use that Apex class? For this, you can go through my previous videos. This is the Apex class I have created. And in order to more about the Apex web services, we have another video. I'll drop the link I'll drop that link also in a description, so you can follow that link. How do we create the Apex web services and how do we use that? So as you can see, this is the Apex class. This is my Apex class, and in this Apex class, I declare a couple of functions. So you can see in this Apex class, I created the account API class name, HTTP get method, and this is going to read the parameter whose record we would like to fetch, and it will return based on the account ID. Okay, based on the account ID or based on the account name, it is going to fetch the data from the account by using with the help of SOQL query and return the result. So we declare HTTP get function, HTTP post function in order to add a new record. We created HTTP patch function in order to update a record. We created HTTP delete function in order to delete a record. The code, basically this code I will upload in a Git drive and drop the link in description, so you can get the code from there also, just for test. So these methods we declare, these are the methods. This is the Apex class, and the URL mapping I declare as account. This is my Apex REST class, which we declare in the target org. Now this Apex REST class will be going to invoke from the source org with the help of HTTP callout class by using name credentials. Now, in order to understand this better, what I have done, I have declared one Visualforce page. Okay, I have created one Visualforce page, and with the help of Visualforce page, it will be easy to understand. So therefore, that's the Visualforce page. This is my Visualforce page. Let me show you target org VF page, and I created this Visualforce page. This section is to insert a record. This is to search a record. This is to update a record, and this is to delete a record. Now let's suppose if I would like to add a new record, and we got an Apex class. So in this Apex class, as you can see in this Apex class, create record in target org. So we use this is a safe. Okay, this is to add a new record, and this code. And as you can see, this is the HTTP callout request. So what we have done, HTTP REST, HTTP request set method post, and you can see this section is very, very important. Request.set endpoint callout, because I use this is our named credential. This is the name of our named credential. If we do not declare a named credential, let's suppose if we do not declare a named credential, then we have to specify the complete domain name of our target org. Okay, so that is the advantage of using named credentials, that we don't have to provide the complete domain name. We just provide the name credentials. And let's suppose if we have used the name credentials in multiple places, so we just change the URL, we just make the changes at one place, or the URL at one place, and it will reflect at all the places where we have used this name credential. So this method helps us to add a new record, and let's test it out. Let me just write here. I just write my name, Sumit Goyal, test account, and phone number 900800700, and I just say create record in target org, and see I got a confirmation message. It says required field missing, name field is missing, so do post. Let's see the test class the apex1, and we are adding a record passing name, candidate name, and candidate. Yeah, so there was some issue, but let me just check it out. So now I'm going to create a new account, and the account name which I'm going to create here is, let's say the name, I just write Sumit test account, and phone number 123456789. And when I click on create record in target org, I got a message account created in target org. Let's go and check. Okay, so I'll just I got a confirmation message. Let's go and check the record inserted or not. And as you can see, the record created successfully in our target org. This is my target org where the record inserted successfully. This is how do we insert a record. Now if I just want to fetch record, let's suppose I want to fetch record. So in order to fetch record, I just want to pass account name and enter account name to search. I just write search, and you can see we got the name S-Force and phone is this one. That's the name and that's the phone number. S-Force and 415901700. We can cross check it. S-Force 415901700. Let's suppose I want to update this record. So I just write S-Force and phone number 5060408090, and I click on update account in target org. Phone number updated successfully, and let's go and cross check. I just refresh this, and I'll just say S4. See this, the record updated successfully. Clear that? And now if I would like to delete, I need to pass an account ID. Let's suppose I want to delete the record we created. Okay, so the record which we created today, let me delete that record. So I just I need to pass the record ID. So I just pass this record ID, and when I click on delete account, the record deleted successfully. Let's go and check. I click on account, and you can see account deleted successfully. So like this way, we perform the DML operations by using Apex REST services, and we made the request, the Apex the REST request from our HTTP request from source to target, and target will perform the operations and revert back and respond back to the source or as the required response. So that's the way we use name credentials in order to perform in order to connect to Salesforce or and to make requests from source to target. So that's all in this video. I hope you like this video. If yes, so don't forget to press the bell icon in order to get the notification about the new videos. Don't forget to subscribe our channel, and if you like our video, so you can post your comments in comment box. Drop your comment over there. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye, everyone.